my name is M.Dimas.
So in this video, we will explain about metathesis.
Vowel reduction, other vowels.
And last but not least, it is exercises.
So stay tuned in this video. So we begin from metathesis. What is metathesis? Metathesis is a situation in which adjacent sounds change position in the word. It happens when two sounds have a switch places, i.e. when they are transposed. For example, in English we have the word ask, but you might have also heard X in some dialects. So you can see that two consonants have switched places from the structure AB to the A. Another example from English, we have the word asterisk. Some people pronounce as asterisk. Another one, the prefix inter or intra, often pronounced like inter. For example, introduce is sometimes pronounced as introduce, so that you can see that the R sounds and the vowel has become reversed. Another one, the prefix pre or pra is often pronounced like per. For example, persecution become persecution. To make you more understand about metathesis, I will give you some example from Indonesian language. In Indonesian language, we have the word kepala. Sometimes people in Indonesia pronounce as kelapa. And then another example from Indonesia is keledai. Sometimes people pronounce as kedelai in some occasion.
My name is Nurul Isa. So in this video, I want to explain about the vowel reduction. Vowel reduction is the articulation of vowel may move to a more central position when the vowel are unstressed. Typically, the outcome of vowel reduction is a process in which an unstressed vowel reduced to a schwa. The symbol of schwa like this, and the sound of schwa, one more, This can observed in pair of related words that show different stress placement, such as Canada versus Canadian. Let's see the example. Canada and Canadian. Phonetic transcription of Canada like this, and the phonetic transcription by Canadian like this. So in this phonetic transcription Canada, this is stress because there is symbol, and schwa in here unstressed. Next, the phonetic transcription Canadian like this, and this is stress, and schwa in here is unstressed. So I think that's all about my material, and I hope you understand about that. And thank you.
Okay. Hello, I'm Galuh Pramesti. I will deliver my material about the other vowels and consonant, but I will explain the specified vowels and the consonant will deliver by my friends. At first, remember that phonetic descriptions are universal. They apply to the sounds of any human language. And then, if you encounter the description voice velar fricative, you know that the sound is a voice consonant that met at velum. For example, is the stop g, and then if you want to make these sounds, the articulatory description will guide you. Make a near closure at the velum and allow airflow to pass through. If you come across the descriptions, high front rounded vowel and want to produce this sound, make the high front unrounded vowel E and then round lips to produce the high front rounded vowel E. So In table 2.28, there is modified IPA chart for vowel that including the vowels of English and many of those found in other language. Where symbols appear in pairs, the font on the left is unrounded, and then the one on the right is rounded.
My name is Ari Pengestu. In this moment, I'm going to tell you about the material APHR. APHR is International Phonetic Alphabet. It's used in any language to help the student and speaker produce the sounds correctly. And also, I'm providing the way how to produce the sound. Let's check this out. So in this moment, we can see the table. The table involves bilabial, labiodental, interdental, alveolar, and alveopalatal, retroflex, palahal, velar, uvular, pyrogonal, and glottal. The first one is bilabial. Bilabial is when you produce the sound involving the two lips. The first example is p. The example of p is stop and b. The example of that is cup. And also fricative v. The example of that is fuhai in Japanese language. And then fu. The example of that is fatan. I take it from Turkmen language. And also there is a nasal. The example of the phonetic is man. And then the approximant, there is a w. The example of that is what. So, and then there is a labiodental. Labiodental is when you produce the sound involving the lower lips and upper teeth. The example of that is in fricative. The first one is f. The example of that is van, buff, and then v. The example of that is fat. And then in nasal, the example of that is symphony. And then we go to the interdental. Interdental is if the tongue is spaced between the teeth and the sound is said to be interdental. The example we start from the left side. The example of that is thin. And then the example of that is dan. And then we have alveolar. Alveolar within the oral cavity, a small ridge protrudes from just behind the upper front teeth. In alveolar stop, we have t and d. T and d. The example of that is tap and that. And fricative and z. The example of is snake and z is zeb. And nasal we have the example of that is nap. And alveolar trill we have ra. The example of that is rope. And then in flap is we have ra. The example of that is better. And the approximant is ra. The example of that we found in Japanese language is kokoro. And then lateral fricative in alveolar. Sla. The example of the word is sludon in Bunu language and zla. And the example of that is inzlala. This is from the Zulu language. And then we have alveopalatal. Alveopalatal is behind the alveolar ridge. The roof of the mouth rises sharply when you produce the sound sh. The example of that is shape. Okay. Once again, sh, shape. And then je. And the example of that is casual. And then we have retroflex. And in retroflex stop we have two phonetics. Ta. The example of that is tattoo in Kannada language. And then we have the. The example of that is dakat, found in Bengali language. And then in the nasal spot we have na. The example of that is anna in Malayalam language. Then in retroflex approximant we have la. The example of that is Kelly in Marathi language. And then in palatal we have cha. The example of that is Charbis in found in Latvian language. And then we have ja. The example of that is Javad, found in Stavat language. Then in palatal fricative we have sha. The example of that is shito in Japanese language. And then we have a ja. The example of that is prijimat and found in Slovak language. And then in the velar we have k. The example of that is cat. And then g. The example of that is game. And in a fuller stop we have ko. The example of that is kulok in Uzbek language. And then we have ro. The example of that is Mongol in Mongolian language. And we have paringal and fricative. We have ho. The example of that is hajj in Chechen language. And then ra'lam in Arabic language. And then we are in the last. We have glottal stop. The example of that is button. And then the last example is fricative. That is ha and ha. I think that's it from this table. We continue to the next page. Then exercises page 55. Find for word that show four alternative spelling of the sound. The answer is vein, in van, staff, and draft. And once more, vein, in van, staff, and draft. I'll have the sound at the beginning, middle, or end, but I'll spell for different ways. In the part B, it is find 6 words that have the letter A pronounced differently. The answer is jack, about, share, private, football, and cable. Once more, jack, about, share, private, football, and cable. The letter A in each word above has 6 different sounds.
Okay, I will answer the question number 1 in page 55 and option C. The question is, in order to become more aware of the differences between spelling and pronunciation, answer the following question about English spelling. Refer to section 1. And the question on option C is, find four words in which different groups of letters represent only one sound. So my answer is right, right, and right. All those words have different groups of letters, but when we represent them, their sound hear same and look same, maybe. So I will repeat again my answer. Right, 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 and right. Can you hear that? Is your same? Thank you.
Okay, so I will try to answer the last question. The question is, find two words in which two different sounds are pronounced but not spelled out. The answer is the word is someone and something. Why the answer is someone and something because the two words someone and something have different sound and pronounced, but when we convey that word without pause is not spelled out. So I think that's all about my answer, and I hope you understand about that. And thank you for your attention.
So that's all about our explanation. We hope the matter will have benefit for you all. Thank you for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.